Okay, so get ready because today we are diving into something pretty meta, even for us. And that's saying something. We're talking AI, but here's the twist.
Mhm.
We're looking at it through this AI-generated podcast. And this podcast is all about how we as humans see AI. It's like we're holding up an AI-powered mirror to ourselves.
Whoa.
Right.
Yeah,
So buckle up because things are about to get seriously meta.
I am so ready.
Good, because today we are tuning into this conversation between Casey and Carlos. They're these two, well, let's just say they're deep into this AI experiment that is seriously making us rethink how we consume and process information these days. And trust me, this is going to be a wild ride. We're talking AI trends, the future of how we take in information, even some deep thoughts on, well, thinking itself, all sparked by this one experiment.
Okay, I need to hear more about this experiment.
So picture this, right? Casey and Carlos just hanging out, having a chat, normal friend stuff.
Okay.
But here's the thing. They're recording these conversations, and they're feeding all those recordings into this AI system.
Interesting.
Right. But it gets even wilder because this AI, it takes their words, their conversation, and spins it into, get this, a polished podcast episode.
Oh, hold on a sec.
You know, right?
That's like seriously next level stuff.
It is. It's like having a super powered audio engineer and editor all rolled into one.
So it's not just mimicking their voices or anything.
Nope. It's taking the raw material of their chat and creating something totally new from it.
That is wild. I bet Carlos is loving this, the tech whiz that he is.
Oh, absolutely. He's all over the potential this has for content creation. Imagine just talking with your friend and bam, instant podcast episode.
Right. No more hours of editing or anything.
Exactly. But, and this is where it gets interesting, Casey, she's a bit more focused on what's actually being said, the content itself.
I feel like they take our ideas and make them sound way better. Because, I feel like one of my issues as, a INFJ is I say stuff, or no, I have ideas, but then, when I say them, they are not very coherent.
Oh, okay. Okay. Uh-huh.
Or
Yeah.
maybe not good. I don't know. I just feel like they can, tie the ideas together better than I can.
Yeah, they structure it better too, and then when they bring up a subject, or a word or whatever, right? Like aphantasia, right? And they stop and
Yeah.
they define it, right?
Define.
And then
And ruminant. They defined ruminants.
oh, they did.
That might be my favorite one so far, actually, because they talk about, they're like, how do we go from cow stomachs to AI? I'm like,
Yeah.
what the hell? How do you? And it must depend what we were talking about. I mean, that felt like what we would talk about. And they're like, they were talking about how they have specific stomachs that are evolved to digest cellulose, and horses have cecums, and humans used to have cecums, and that's what our appendix is, and we don't need that anymore. And just like with biological systems that change all the time, AI is changing,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and we can look at this evolution of biological things to predict, changes in AI. I'm like, holy crap.
You did.
That's what they talked about.
Yeah, but that's what you were talking about. What are you talking about?
I know, but for them to string it together the way
Yeah,
that they did,
yeah.
it just sounds
Mhm.
way better than the way I just said it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's always there are no real pauses, right? It's really continuous, right? And with reactions and what do you call it? Side comments and right.
Mhm.
And she starts to notice that the AI is doing this thing where it connects their ideas in these unexpected ways, almost like it's, I don't know, thinking for itself.
Okay, so we're talking about AI and creativity then, right?
Mhm.
Is this AI actually being creative, or is it just really, really good at copying how humans think?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And if
Yeah.
this AI is the one shaping the content, who gets to call themselves the author?
Exactly.
These are the kinds of questions, by the way, that we're all going to be wrestling with more and more as AI gets, well, smarter.
Yeah, for sure.
But hold on, because just when you think this whole experiment couldn't get any weirder, Casey and Carlos, they find something. They find glitches in these AI podcasts. And trust me, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay, now I need to know more about these glitches.
So remember how we were saying that Casey was really struck by the AI's ability to connect the dots in ways they never even thought of?
Right, yeah.
Well, it turns out that this AI, it has kind of a knack for going off script too, way off script.
Off script how?
Okay, so in one episode, get this. The AI starts doling out this incredibly specific relationship advice.
Wait, really?
Yeah, and the thing is, they never even talked about relationships in the original conversation.
So where is it even getting this information from? That's so strange.
Right, it's where is this coming from? And it turns out that this is actually a thing in the AI world. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's called, get this, hallucination.
Hallucination, it's seeing things that aren't there.
Exactly. Basically, the AI, it's trying so hard to create and process that it just starts making stuff up.
Wow. So even AI can have a bit of an imagination, huh? But that's kind of unnerving, though, right?
It is, a little bit,
Please,
especially when you think about how much we rely on AI for information these days.
Exactly. How do we know what to trust anymore?
Well, and that's the thing, right? We can't just switch off our own critical thinking skills. We can't just assume that because it's AI, it's accurate.
It's like anything else. You've got to think for yourself, question your sources, double-check the facts.
Absolutely. And this actually leads us to maybe the most bizarrely brilliant example of this AI's out-of-the-box thinking.
Okay, you've got to tell me, what is it? So, you ready for this? It's the cow-stomach connection.
The what?
You heard me right. Cow stomachs?
Okay, I did not see that one coming.
Right. So, in one of the episodes, the AI somehow manages to connect, get this, cow digestion to the latest trends in AI.
I have no idea how those two things go together.
Right. It's wild. It starts talking about ruminants, like cows and their four stomachs and how they break down all that tough grass. And then it goes on this whole tangent about cecums, which are parts of the digestive system in other animals.
Okay, I am following this, but I'm so curious where this is going.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The AI, it basically says that the way cows have evolved to digest cellulose, it's this perfect example of how biological systems and even artificial intelligence, they evolve to solve complex problems.
Okay, now that is fascinating. I mean, it's kind of amazing that this AI can make these leaps in logic that we wouldn't even think of.
It's it's seeing connections that we just completely miss, And it makes you wonder what other surprising links are out there just waiting to be discovered.
For sure. It's like that saying, everything is connected. But AI might actually be able to show us those connections.
Right. And this whole thing with the cow stomachs, it actually made me think about this concept of biomimicry. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, it's like when we look to nature for inspiration for design and technology, right?
Exactly. Velcro was inspired by those little burrs that get stuck on your clothes.
Right, or like how they're designing more aerodynamic cars based on the shape of fish.
Yes, exactly. So if AI can find these crazy connections between cow stomachs and cutting-edge technology, what else is it capable of?
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
It really is. And speaking of mind-blowing, this whole experiment got Casey and Carlos thinking about another pretty big issue, information overload.
Oh yeah, that's something we all struggle with, right?
Yeah.
Too much information, not enough time.
Totally.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how overwhelming something like Twitter can be, with this constant stream of information coming at you.
Right. It's like you can get so caught up in the endless scroll that you don't actually process anything.
Exactly. And they were comparing that to the experience of listening to a podcast, which is obviously something we're both pretty familiar with.
Right, which is funny because this whole thing started with a podcast.
It is kind of a funny loop, isn't it?
Yeah. Very meta.
But anyway, they were saying how podcasts can be a more focused way to engage with information. You're not bombarded with a million different things at once.
Right. It's a much more intentional way of consuming information.
Yeah. And it made me wonder, could AI actually help us deal with information overload in a more meaningful way?
The good question. Could AI help curate our information diets in a way that's both manageable and still exposes us to a diversity of viewpoints?
Exactly. Or would it end up narrowing our perspectives even further? It's hard to say for sure.
There are definitely two sides to that coin, for sure.
There are. But one thing's for sure, though, this whole world of AI, it's changing everything, isn't it? The way we create, the way we consume, even the way we think about information.
It's like a whole new frontier, and we're just starting to explore it.
We are. And, as we come to the end of this deep dive, there's one thing that's really stuck with me. It's this thing Casey and Carlos said about their AI podcast.
Okay, what's that?
Well, they talked about creating it, feeding all these conversations into the AI, but they never actually mention listening to the finished product.
Interesting. I didn't catch that. So they created this whole AI podcast, but never actually listened to a single episode.
Nope, not that they mention anyway. It's like they almost created something and were a little afraid of it, you know?
I wonder why. Maybe it's like looking into a mirror, but the reflection is just a little too real.
Maybe. So it makes you think, right? Even as we create AI that's more and more human-like, there's still this part of us that's a little unsure, a little unsettled by how closely it reflects ourselves.
I think that's a good place to leave it, actually. It's a question that everyone listening can ponder. If you created an AI version of yourself, would you want to listen to what it had to say?
And on that note, we'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this whole world of AI and all the questions it raises? Share your thoughts, your hopes, your concerns. This is a conversation that's just getting started, and we want you to be a part of it.